Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Thursday. Yesterday, I gave the crew the Martin Luther King holiday that we didn't take on Monday. I gave them Wednesday off. I hope you, those of you that hadn't seen the debate between Delano Squires and Chad Jackson, I hope you enjoyed that content yesterday. I saw some complaints, Whitlock and the crew, they're being lazy. No, actually, we worked very hard over, because one, that 3-hour interview or the debate was taped on Friday, and we had an incredibly long, 5 a.m. till 6 p.m. Friday. But anyway, there are reasons why we took Wednesday off that had nothing to do with taking a break. It had more to do with, doing a makeup. But we're back today, and there is a lot to talk about in the sports world, and fascinating, interesting, compelling, impactful things to talk about in the sports world. ESPN did an amazing story from Baxter Holmes on Jeannie Buss and in it, and the Buss family and the sale of the Lakers. And in the middle of that story, LeBron James caught a stray bullet where they kind of unloaded and unpacked. And I hope we did pull that clip. We got it. I'm not gonna do it now, but I just wanted to make sure we're ready to unpack the shot that Jeannie Buss took at LeBron James, and that's got a lot of news, and we will address that. But it also, the story, if you really read it and understand it, you would see that Jerry Buss, the patriarch that owned the Lakers for 30, 40 years or for however long and left it to his family, this story reads like a real-life version of the TV show Succession. Jerry Buss and his 6 kids, 4 of them he had with his wife, and then 2 younger sons he had with his jump-off. Amazing story, and it played out like Succession on HBO, and I want to get into that because the 2 younger sons lost an information war that I think also connects to where we're going to start today's show. Josh Allen, he is losing an information war, and I'll explain that there's this racialized information war that Josh Allen and other white athletes are losing. And so we will talk about that in significant detail. Steve Kim and Jay Skapinac will join me for that discussion about LeBron, about Jeannie Buss, about Josh Allen. And we will also talk with Skap and Steve Kim about Mike Tomlin, according to Jay Glazer, is done coaching forever. That seems pretty incredible, given a guy is just 50 some odd years old, early 50s, that he would be done coaching forever at this point. That seems like a mistake, but you never know. We'll get their take. Bomani Jones had some interesting things to say about Matt Stafford. That will play into the opening of the show as well. Let me see what else that the coaching carousel and Brian Flores and how he has sabotaged his own possibilities of being a head coach in the NFL with the lawsuit that he has going on. There's also Ryan Fitzpatrick, the former NFL quarterback, now Amazon Prime football commentator, saying that the Houston Texans, floating the idea, he ponders whether the Houston Texans should try to trade C.J. Stroud. So we got a lot to address and talk about today. It will be an amazing show. I want to start by telling you all, if you're listening over Apple, hit that 5-star rating. It is important. It is vitally important for you to do that to help us fight the algorithm and grow the show. We appreciate it. If you're watching over YouTube, it's important that you hit the subscribe button, you hit the like button, you engage with our content. Make sure you leave a comment about the show. That helps us fight the algorithm as well. And the other thing you should do, partially or primarily, if you're suffering from pain caused by inflammation and those little nagging aches and pains that are compromising your decision making, trust me, it's inflammation. And there is a natural 100% drug-free way for you to fight those pains from inflammation, and it's Relief Factor. I use it. It's been great for me. You guys hear me talk personally about my guy, Jeffrey Steele, who's back at the top of the country music charts with his song A Voice. Guy's 64, doing his best work right now. And it's because, the guy gets out and exercises every morning. He bikes 30 miles. He's got this biking addiction, and he's 64. And part of the reason he is because of Relief Factor. Relief Factor has a 3-week quick trial program that's only $19.95. 70% of the people that try the 3-week quick start circle back and re-up for a full package of Relief Factor because they're already experiencing the benefits of Relief Factor. Guys, I can't tell you what it's done for me. I sit here and tell you all the time about what it's done for Jeffrey Steele and countless others. More than 1 million people have turned to Relief Factor as a way to fight those joint and inflammation pains, nagging them, compromising their life. Guys, it's something you should try. Visit relieffactor.com. That's relieffactor.com, or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. All right, let's get into today's show. And I'm going to start with Josh Allen and the discussion about whether the conversation around Josh Allen, is it fair? Can he win in this information war society? And there seems to be, there is a group that Bobby Burack from Outkick and others have noticed, have written about, and talked about, that Josh Allen is being framed up as a villain. And that there's all this conversation just destroying this guy constantly. And Bobby points out that Caitlin Clark faces the same thing. And he wrote in this article that we're showing you the headline from, if you're starting to see a trend, there are no great white hopes in 2026. The racial discourse in sports is largely the product of commentators convincing themselves that any praise or popularity of a white athlete must be rooted in racial bias. Much of the sports media, which is not especially impressive or rigorous group, operates from the Marxian worldview in which one person's success must come from another's exploitation. Translated, they believe the popularity of a white athlete comes at the expense of a black athlete. They are so committed to this worldview that they go on television and onto their Made for Blue Sky podcast to throw tantrums over things no one actually said about athletes like Josh Allen and Caitlin Clark. And so what Bobby's article ends up explaining is like Ryan Clark, Bomani Jones, others, a bunch of others, Cam Newton, start from the perspective that, hey, man, the media is protecting Josh Allen. The media is protecting and promoting Caitlin Clark. How else could they be this popular? Why any praise of them comes from, it's the white media protecting them. And so it is our job to balance the protection of Josh Allen and Caitlin Clark by providing the must-see, much necessary criticism to counterbalance all the praise that they're being showered with. Bobby Burack makes the point that, there aren't people running around caping up for Josh Allen. That, to the contrary, when Josh Allen just played a poor playoff game and cost his team that playoff game with ridiculous mistakes and interceptions and fumbles and whatnot. Everybody criticized Josh Allen. There wasn't a great caping up. Now, maybe there's guys like Dan Orlovsky and others that say like, hey, man, I know he had a bad game, but, man, this guy's great. He had a great regular season. It's shocking that he made these many mistakes in the postseason. But that is the actual counterbalance. There are people raising their hand and saying like, yeah, he had a bad game, but let's not forget he's a hell of a player. And that what actually does transpire is that when a black athlete, particularly one who Ryan Clark and others have deemed as authentically black, meaning they wear cornrows or they braid their hair or they talk ebonics very effectively on TV, that's what being authentically black, that there is a caping up for them, and it always starts with, well, what about some white guy? And you better keep the same energy as you did for this. You better keep the same energy for this white guy that you're now shooting at Lamar Jackson. There is a group of black content creators, black personalities that have overtaken ESPN, have an outsized influence at Fox Sports, and again, take Fox Sports. It's not. They now have Barstool. They have Colin Kaepernick. They got Colin Kaepernick, Colin Cowherd, and Nick Wright. That's we've been seeing the commercials all during the football season. Hey, white guys are the face of Fox Sports, but they're still influenced by this drumbeat of black content creators and this fear of being cast as racist. And so their comments are often slanted in a super hostile way towards Josh Allen, or just an unfair, that there's a reluctance to talk about Josh Allen fairly. And so I want to point, here's an example of, I believe, people taking Josh Allen defense out of context while making a fair point that, like, hey, man, everybody on the show Get Up is a CAA employee. And that I believe their argument is Josh Allen is represented by CAA. And so if you just look at this clip in a bubble, in a vacuum, and don't put all the other context around it, it looks like, hey, here's what they're talking about. Everybody's caping up for Josh Allen. Let's play the ESPN clip. I'm hold for 1 second. It's we didn't pull it. It's I thought I sent it. It was it's not in a, oh man, I screwed this screw up is on me. There's Damian Woody, Adam Schefter. This isn't in our text thread. Damian Woody, Adam Schefter, I did send it here. Josh Allen is the best player in the world. It's the first text I sent out at 6:28 a.m. And it is Josh Allen is the best player in the world, and you got Adam Schefter, you got Darren Orlovsky, you got Damian Woody, all of these guys all basically saying the same thing. And I apologize for not making a point to, but this is on me. But we will have that clip here in a second. This is what they point to as the flaming example of, hey, everybody is protecting Josh Allen. And they're really not. They're just putting context around Josh Allen. Josh Allen can have a bad game, a really bad game. And everybody can still acknowledge, like, no, man, this is the best player in our league. He just had a bad game. It's no different than what we did for Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes played poorly in Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes has had, his play has dipped the last 2 or 3 years. and we still recognize, like, no, Patrick Mahomes is that guy. He's got the best chance to be Tom Brady 2.0. But here's a clip or an example that's floating around the internet of like, oh, look at everybody cape up for Josh Allen.
By the way, like the Bills never made it to the Super Bowl. They lost once in the wild card round, 4 times in the divisional round, twice in the AFC Championship game. Never made it to a Super Bowl with Josh Allen. There you go. What do you always say about Josh Allen?
Best player in the world. He is. And look.
And again, yesterday, they gave up 30 points. It is unacceptable when you have the best player in the world and you can't find your way to the big one. It's just unacceptable.
I have a variety of that out of the conversation. Who's the right person, in your opinion? Look, this is about Allen. You've got Josh Allen. Shefty mentioned he's going to turn 30. Basically, he's the midway point of his career. He has demonstrated that he is as good as any quarterback that ever lived. I'm watching the game 50 years. No one's ever been better than this guy, but he has.
That's what they're pointing to as like, oh, boy, look at how biased the media is for Josh Allen. And if you put that conversation in total context, I'm sure that's a brief moment where they're like, here's the context for Josh Allen. He's a great player. I'm sure if you went to other parts of Get Up on that day, amongst that same group of commentators, there were guys that like, man, he played poorly. He that fumble before halftime, that scramble before halftime, that interception. There are some people like myself that's like, hey, man, that Brandon Cooks interception was a poorly thrown ball. He underthrew him. It is what it is. And I like Josh Allen, but the guy choked. But he's losing the information war to the racial idolaters. And on yesterday, I believe it was, Terry Pegula, the owner of the Buffalo Bills, got into a press conference and started saying true things about Keon Coleman or about how Keon Coleman was drafted. This is the second-year wide receiver who's turned into an absolute bust, got set down for several games this year. I think only had one game this season where he caught for more than 50 yards. And Pegula is taking heat, and people are saying that he's throwing Keon Coleman under the bus. He's throwing the former coaching staff, Sean McDermott, under the bus. He's doing it to protect Josh Allen. I would say, even if he was, I don't have a problem with it. Josh Allen, he's paid hundreds of millions of dollars. He's their best hope. He is their best player. He's arguably the greatest Bills player of all time, maybe other than Bruce Smith. I don't blame the owner for protecting his investment, but let's play SOT 1.
Yeah, Can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And, he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it, but I'm here to tell you the true story.
So, Pegula, taking some heat for firing Sean McDermott. That's a big decision. Sean McDermott has been really successful, hasn't taken the team to the Super Bowl. Everybody gets it. But he has been an effective head coach. He's popular with the players. Terry Pegula perhaps out over his skis a bit in firing Sean McDermott without a game plan, or the game plan seems to be, hey, we're going to circle back to Brian Daboll, who failed as the head coach of the Giants but had success with Josh Allen in Buffalo. It doesn't seem like Buffalo is the greatest run franchise. and the owner is trying to channel his inner Steve Bisciotti and have a press conference moment where he jumps in and takes a bullet for the general manager who he's sticking behind, but the general manager is taking bullets over social media where people are showing, like, hold on, man, here's what you were saying before the draft. Here's what you said immediately after the draft 2 years ago when you took Keon Coleman. I would love to show everybody what the media was saying about Keon Coleman immediately after the draft. When this guy put on his clown buffoon suit and oh, he's just so lovable. He's so refreshing. Look how stupid he is. Everybody loves to celebrate the black athlete that acts like a buffoon. And then when that black athlete who acts like a buffoon washes out and fails because of his immaturity, everybody gets amnesia that they were celebrating this buffoonery. Let me move on and continue and bring in the other half of this information warfare that's going on. And it's Jeannie Buss and LeBron James. And it's particularly, it's not Jeannie Buss versus LeBron James, although that is an element of it. The Baxter Holmes story for ESPN is really Jeannie Buss against her brothers. It's Jeannie Buss versus her family. It's Jeannie Buss working the media to the detriment of her brothers and sisters, but particularly her two youngest half-brothers. You have to read this story. It is awesome. It is amazing. It is a sports newspaper version of the TV show Succession. And I'm reading this the entire time. I was like, man, instead of making Succession about Rupert Murdoch's family, this is the television series that I want to see. Jeannie Buss as the woman that, because of the lean into the matriarchy, because of the animus towards the patriarchy, has been able to use and manipulate the media and become a media darling while running the Lakers franchise into the ground. The story points out very subtly that, like, hey, man, ever since Jerry Buss died and Jeannie Buss has been running the franchise, this franchise is in the toilet. They stole one bubble championship. Other than that, Jeannie Buss, under her leadership, this thing hasn't peed a drop. And this story points out, if you're reading it with a critical eye, that Jeannie Buss manipulated, double-crossed her siblings, particularly her two youngest half-siblings, to sell the team out from underneath them, cash out, keep her job at the top of the organization for 5 years while screwing over her brothers and sisters. It's an amazing story. What will get most of the focus, and we'll start there by talking about this, is she also just threw LeBron James completely under the bus. Jeannie, here, let me quote from the story. Jeannie privately grumbled, people close to the team say, about what she felt was LeBron James's outsized ego and the overt control that he and Clutch Sports, which represents both James and Anthony Davis, exerted over the organization at times. She didn't like that James was considered a savior for a floundering franchise when he arrived in 2018, and that it was he who chose the Lakers rather than the team's leadership receiving praise for landing him. Quote, Jeannie privately bristled about what she felt was his lack of accountability and the way James would shift blame onto others after the Westbrook trade. And when the Lakers drafted James's son, Bronny, with the 55th pick in the 2024 draft, Jeannie privately remarked that James should be grateful for such a gesture, but she felt that he wasn't, people close to the team told ESPN. Wow. That's a direct shot at LeBron James. And it puts me in the awkward position of having to defend LeBron James. And again, I don't have inside information here. I don't. But I'm just Jeannie Buss, because of her plumbing, because of her gender, has leverage over LeBron James. We're in this whole Yas Queen, Woman King, women are leaders, women are this or that. We're in this whole era where if a man gets in a back and forth dispute with a woman, the man has no shot here. And so Jeannie Buss and the Lakers, through proper leadership, rather than, hey, LeBron didn't show enough gratitude, the story should be Jeannie Buss didn't show enough leadership to tell LeBron James, no, we're not drafting your son. He can't help us. It will further set back this franchise. It will put a cancer inside of this locker room. So, no, we're not doing that. That should be the story. But the story will be, and Jeannie Buss knows it because she knows and she's counting on people like myself who's rejecting this opportunity. She's like, man, these guys don't like LeBron James, and I will throw him under the bus here, even though, I've run around and sat on sidelines with him and act like BFF with the guy and all this other stuff. But now that it's convenient and I'm in this dispute with my younger brothers and I want to explain why I sold the team and I'm taking heat for the way that we sold the team, let me throw out some red meat to the LeBron haters, and there are a bunch of them. Let me throw them some red meat. LeBron was selfish and didn't show enough gratitude. LeBron wanted too much credit for joining the Lakers. LeBron didn't want to be held accountable, because it's mentioned in this story, for bringing Russell Westbrook to the team and that being a failure. Hey, Jeannie, what great owners do, what great leaders do, is they can see, they can sense which way the wind is blowing. They know when to hit the eject button on certain players. They know that, hey, this shortcut of let's bring in LeBron James, well, that's not the same as let's bring in Shaquille O'Neal in his prime. That's not the same as let's bring in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he's still an MVP candidate and capable of winning the MVP and won some MVPs while with the Lakers. This isn't the same. LeBron James, you got LeBron James at the end of his career when he had already won championships in Miami and in Cleveland, and he was putting his engine into cruise control. You got the LeBron James who spent and spends all of his time conducting an information war. You got the LeBron James who came out to Los Angeles with visions of being a Hollywood mogul, media mogul, rather than superstar basketball player. Jeannie, you had the opportunity to say, nah, I'm good. We're going to pass on LeBron James. We think his last 7-8 years in the league will be a disaster for the most part. And this guy has so much ego that he's actually going to want to put his sons, borderline high major Division I players, he's going to want to put them on our basketball roster. And so, Jeannie, in her desperation to prove I'm a chip off the old block, I'm no different than my dad, I'm matriarchal leadership rules, I am Khaleesi, I'm the woman king. Yes, I will sign up for LeBron James, and I will take this bubble title, the COVID bubble title, and I will pretend like it's a legitimate title and that I've done something incredible here. You took the deal. And there are plenty of people. I'm going to raise my hand as one. You can go Fact check me. You can go check the receipts. I was on air at Fox Sports during the time of the LeBron James acquisition, calling it the LeBron James Hollywood experiment or something like that, and predicting it was going to be a failure. And it has been. It's failing right now, even with Luka Doncic. And many of you right now, well, they won the bubble. Y'all know that bubble title is not the same. Y'all know that the LeBron James Hollywood experiment has been a failure. They've created Frankenstein, and now Jeannie Buss is trying to kill Frankenstein on her way out the door. And in her justification of what all she wrought for the Los Angeles Lakers franchise. I read the story. I feel bad for those two young bus boys. They had visions, and it sounds like, according to the story, their dad had visions of them running the Lakers franchise, of them becoming the next Jerry Buss. And they were denied that opportunity by their narcissistic, evil sister. She is Cersei Lannister. I'm sorry if you didn't watch Game of Thrones, but she is Cersei Lannister. She's burning the whole thing down on her way out the door. People have made her feel shame, shame, shame. And she's angry. And so in her little information warfare that I got to tip my hat to her, she's outflanked her younger brothers in a rigged information war. And she's burning down LeBron James. And perhaps, and I'm sure LeBron James is reading this, and Rich Paul may watch this and see this, and you guys will be shocked at what I'm about to say. Jeannie Buss owes LeBron James more gratitude than LeBron James owes Jeannie Buss gratitude. Yes, I said that. All right, I'm going to land the plane there and here because I want to bring Jay Skapinac and Steve Kim to the conversation. Clearly, they'll have some thoughts on LeBron James. We'll have some thoughts on Josh Allen. I'm going to take a little sip of water here, catch my breath for a second, and then we'll come back with Skap and Steve Kim. Before I go,
These words are our religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
Skap, Steve, be patient with me here. We had some audio issues. I got to plug our friends at Prize Picks one more time. Hopefully we won't have the audio issues. The big game is almost here. There's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get in some football action before the next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly when you play your first $5. You guys know my mother likes to play Prize Picks. She sent her picks in for this AFC, NFC championship games. Puka Nacua, less than 93.5 receiving yards. Jackson Smith in Jigma, more than 6.5 receptions. Drake May, more than 221.5 passing yards. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like me, us, and tail or fade our picks with just one click. There's nobody better to fade than me. You guys have seen my picks this year. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code FEARLESS to get $50 in lineups. After you play your first $5 lineup, that's code FEARLESS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, Steve Kim, Jay Skapinac, welcome into the program. Steve, I'm going to do something I'm reluctant to do, but I'm going to let you tell me what's most interesting, the Josh Allen aspect of this or the LeBron James Genie Bus aspect of this. Where do you want to start?
Well, I want to start as a Laker fan in recess with the Genie Bus
Scap got
thing.
a big smile on his face. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I want to start as a Laker fan in recess with Genie Bus. Now, Jason, that was a very good analogy you drew to Cersei in Game of Thrones. I go another way as someone that nicknamed her as Freda Bus, but this really isn't a Godfather situation, right? We were both fans at one time of Succession. So maybe she Shiv Bus. Except Shiv didn't really own the company. And so I'm thinking, is she more Connor Roy? And I don't know what else to say except as a longtime Laker fan in recess, as someone who believes that Dr. Jerry Buss is the greatest owner in American sports history, this is a shame. And it is a tragedy, but it is not a surprise. For years, Jeannie Buss has gotten favorable coverage. It's not Josh Allen. It's Jeannie Buss because she's a female. A lot of this was known. Talk to people that have been around the organization. None of this is a surprise. And this is a book that I recommended to both you and Scap a couple of months ago, A Hollywood Ending by Yaron Weitzman, which goes into greater detail than the Baxter Holmes article, which was very well done a couple of days ago. So this whole Jeannie Buss thing, none of it is a surprise, but it is still very, very sad as a Laker fan in recess.
Where do you come down on my contention that Jeannie Buss owes LeBron James more gratitude than LeBron James owes Jeannie Buss?
You know, I actually agree with that. Let's be honest. The last years of Kobe Bryant as a Laker were disastrous. In fact, it's the worst 3 to 4 year stretch in franchise history. Okay? And I was kind of critical of Kobe and the organization at that time. And many of those decisions, including that last contract, I believe was okayed by Jeannie Buss. So, yeah, the Lakers needed LeBron more than LeBron needed the Lakers. But I want to say this about Jeannie grousing and telling confidants, I'm sick of LeBron, this and this in clutch sport. Here's the problem with their weak, lip-wristed leadership. She kept acquiescing to him the last 7 years. That right there is an indictment on her governorship of my beloved Lakers.
Before I ask Scap a question, Steve, because I really can't wait to see where Scap goes on this. Do you have a prediction on if Scap is going to side with Jeannie or LeBron here? Do you have a prediction?
I mean, come on. Well, I mean, what do you think? But again, as I like to say, for him, for old Scapmania, this is like choosing between what would you rather have, gonorrhea or syphilis? There's really no good choice. It's a tough one, and I'm curious to see what he has to say.
All right, Scap, both Steve and I expressing some sympathy or support for LeBron James. Where do you stand?
Well, guys, have you seen that meme with like a guy sweating profusely, like an animated guy, and he's trying to press one button and then he's waffling and he's going to the other button, and it's just the like two horrendous decisions? That's basically like me on this topic because I hate both parties. I have been talking smack on the idiot that is Jeannie Buss for well over a decade. And guys, look, it's not just Jeannie, it's the entire Buss clan. The entire now look, the two younger guys, I think they're 38 and 41 years old, the half brothers. No shade on them because they weren't involved in any of the plannings and the musings and the struggles and the failings that went into all of the decisions about the last decade. But the guys, the four, Jeannie and her other brothers, have just systematically flushed this franchise down the toilet. And Steve, I do have to push back a little bit. It began in the Kobe Bryant time. And like they basically helped to destroy the last couple years of Kobe Bryant's career. That I single-handedly blame those guys, Jeannie and Jim primarily, for Kobe rupturing his Achilles, which led to those last 3 years that you highlighted. Of course they were terrible, Steve. Kobe barely played. He played like 6 games, 38 games, and then like 66 games in his last 3 years because he was a physical shell of himself because of the horrendous decision making that went in constructing the team in 2012, where Kobe was still a top 3 player league wide, but he had to play like 46 minutes a game in his last 8 games of the season in his 17th season before he snapped his Achilles. That's all on the buses and their idiotic plannings of hiring Mike D'Antoni over Phil Jackson, bringing in 38-year-old Steve Nash to be the point guard that year, like Pau Gasol's depreciation, bringing in Dwight Howard on a back surgery that earlier that summer. That team was a disaster. It forced Kobe to do what he had to do at the end of the season just to get them into the playoffs. He popped the Achilles, and then he was a literal shell of himself for the last 3 years. And those teams they surrounded him with were also laughable. Look at the supporting cast Brian had on the way out. So look, I have no love lost for Jeannie Buss. I agree with both of your takes on what a fool she is overall and how she just drove this franchise into the ground. But look, I do have to push back a little bit in this regard, guys.
But Scap, I will say this, and look, I'm not anti-Kobe. I'm a Laker fan in recess. There are reports that even before the injury, and you're right, Scap, he was still an elite player, he wouldn't take a Duncan discount the way Tim Duncan. And again, maybe you could say it's a different caliber of player, but also the other thing is there are certain free agents that did not want to play with Kobe. And I think that has to be written, but you are right. The last 3 years of Kobe, he was basically on one leg. So I get it. I will actually agree with you on that. But overall, this organization, I believe Jerry Buss was a little bit naive. In instances like this, where you're asking people to divide up this pie, it's just not realistic. This was bound to end up this way.
Here's the thing, though, Steve. It's not just the Lakers. Yes, it was probably the highest profile failure we've seen, and it's played out now in the media. You recommended that book. I actually have it on order. I can't wait to read it. I read the entire article from Baxter Holmes yesterday, and I challenge you guys actually to put your collective knowledge to practice here on sports throughout the history. Can you find me a situation where an owner, like a beloved or well-known owner that brought a team to prominence, then turned it over to their kids and it went well? Because I personally can't come up with it. This is a tale as old as time. Entitled loser kids that do nothing themselves, don't earn the opportunity they're given. They take what their great father built and gave and bestowed upon them, and then they fail miserably and run it into the ground, i.e., let me point to the New York Yankees and what they've done since Steinbrenner stepped away. Another like high-profile organization, one of the best in sports history. What have they won in the last like 20 years? One World Series in like 2 decades? But still, I challenge you to give me one instance. Well, let me just point to the Pittsburgh
Roonies.
Steelers, by the way, and the Roonies.
You're not going to go with the Roonies?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Roonies as an example of what I'm talking about. Scrub entitled children that don't deserve what they're running that organization into the ground. That's exactly what I'm talking about. No, I'm not giving the Roonies as a positive on that list. I'm counting them in my negatives.
Now, okay, how about this then, Jason, being from Indianapolis? Bob Irsay, I don't think was a great owner, to say the least, but I think that his son did a pretty good job of elevating that franchise.
Terrible. Are you kidding? Jim Irsay, he fell ass backwards into Peyton Manning and managed to squeeze exactly 1 total Super Bowl out of him before cutting him, and then Peyton Manning winning comeback player of the year, another league MVP, and going to 2 more Super Bowls. Jim Irsay is exactly what I'm talking about. Bum. And now his daughter, do you remember his daughter on the sideline with the notepad, drawing up plays or whatever, taking notes? Everyone was celebrating that all year. How did that end? How did that story finish for her and for the Indianapolis Colts this year? It's just a cycle, guys.
We need to let Scap cook lower third right now, because I got to say, Scap, people have come on this show before, loaded for bear, but holy cow, we're throwing the Irsays at you. And you got something for everybody. I hope I'm not on your bad side this morning, because, man, you are loaded for bear. Don't let me cut you off, Scap. If you want to continue to cook, go ahead.
I'm just saying we shouldn't be shocked or surprised that these kids that do literally nothing for their entire lives, that just sit around. Look, let me throw another one at you. The Kroenke family. And what they've done look at what that fool has done with Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, and then Jokic's prime. I mean, they're trying to turn around this year in the offseason and so forth. But again, it's a tale as old as time. We shouldn't be surprised that these spawn of these guys that turn the teams over to them, they do literally nothing their whole lives. They're pampered their whole lives. They're given everything their whole lives. Then they're given a franchise to run, and surprise, surprise, they do a terrible job at it. I'm not shocked that Jeannie Buss was a failure and that things went this way for the LA Lakers. I am pretty shocked, though, that LeBron James, look, we hear about coach killers. This guy was a franchise killer. He was an owner killer. Like, how bad does a guy have to be? And I'm with you, Jason and Steve. Does Jeannie Buss look horrendous with this article? Yes. Does LeBron James look horrendous with this article? Yes. The answer is yes to both questions. They both look terrible. I don't think there's a winner or a loser to be found within this, and because LeBron James literally helped to facilitate Jeannie Buss selling her father's franchise that he basically created, just flushed his whole legacy down a drain, essentially because she lost the power battle with Clutch Sports and LeBron James. And all of it, guys, all of it for one single championship in a COVID bubble on the Disney campuses after a 3-month stoppage. Oh, wait, and I forgot this one too, by the way. The first inaugural in-season Emirates Cup tournament, guys. They also won that. Let's not take that away because Jeannie Buss and these ridiculous Buss brain trust kids raised the banner for that too. This is just an epic disaster. It's a cautionary tale for all involved, guys. And there's just no hero in it. It's all villains. It's LeBron and Jeannie. It's just a bunch of villains in this story, guys. No heroes, no heroines.
Scap, let me provide you a little inside information, just if you want to continue your rant. I don't know if you know this, but Steve Kim Sr. ran a liquor store empire across inner cities all over America,
Yes.
turned it over to Steve Kim Jr., and it hasn't been the same since.
And now I'm on Fearless, how the mighty have fallen. By the way, guys, I was reminded of this. I was listening. If someone said, and I was driving around LA, and time flies, this is year 8 of LeBron as a Laker, right? I think we're at the point now, so I think he spent 9 or 10 with Cleveland, right?
11.
Wow, so he's creeping up to almost spending as much time as an LA Laker than a Cleveland Cavalier. That's pretty remarkable if you think about it.
And twice as long as he was in Miami.
Yes.
Remember, 4 years in Miami, 11 in Cleveland, now 8 in LA.
Steve, I think this story was written trying to engender some respect or to let Jeannie walk out the door with her head held high.
Ugh.
I think that was the intent of the story. I don't think it's worked. And to you and Scap's point, she's had this comeuppance coming for a long time. When we think of, male ownership, if a man was leading the kind of fall that she has with the Lakers, they would get trashed from start to finish, be a laughing stock, whereas she has been celebrated across ESPN and across the media for years. She's gotten away with this.
If that was the full intent, I would have thought Ramona Shelburne would have gotten that assignment. But let me just tell you why. And I've heard this locally from people that are much closer to the situation than any of us. And I don't know how much of a big story it is nationally. One of the agreements that Jerry West, the beloved logo, one of the greatest Lakers of all time, had with Jerry Buss, even when he departed the franchise, was every year Jerry West gets a pair of season tickets to every game. That's part of his package because he's Jerry West. Jeannie Buss, for some reason, cut that off. Shut it off. Right then, a lot of people were off her. So that right there showed me a lack of respect for everything that is Lakerhood. And I've said this to you before about Freda. She gets a free pass because she was part of this women empowerment movement that is really pushed by the media.
I don't want to force thoughts on you, but if there was a victim, because I don't believe the older brothers and sisters, there's 4 of them that all come from the same mom and dad. But I'm telling you, I left that article like, hey man, these 2 young sons that he had by his jump off, actually, they had something to prove. They seemed motivated and seemed different than the other 4. And if I come away from the story actually feeling a bit sympathetic for them, I think it's Jesse and Joey. Those guys have, had a shot. Again, Steve, I can't remember Succession that well. If there was anybody I felt sorry for in Succession, but I felt the younger brother who was sexually perverted or whatever. I can't remember his name, but maybe I felt a little sorry for him. He stayed loyal to Logan all the way through, but I felt sorry for the Jesse and Joey.
Yeah, he was the one with all the funny one-liners. He was pretty hilarious, actually.
Yes.
The 2 younger ones, here's what I liked about them. They actually worked at being basketball guys. I think they actually cared about the product, the basketball. They went to work every day. The other 2 brothers, I heard, lived a life of privilege. And, again, like Scap said, they basically were trust fund babies who had an aimless direction, and us Laker fans had to suffer for it. The thing I did like about those 2 younger guys is I think they wanted to make Laker Lives fans better by providing a better product. But at the end, they were first used and leveraged by Jeannie, then ultimately discarded.
Yeah, even the older sister, Janie, in the story, she seemed pretty worthless too. They couldn't even get a hold of her. She's vacationing in Canada with her phone. No one could get it. Sounds like a real. Everybody thinks money and growing up in a great deal of wealth creates all this happiness, and I'm sure there's some happiness to it. But it sounded like a group, particularly among the top 4, that didn't like each other. This was a tragic story, and any story that I read that makes me sympathetic towards LeBron James must mean, man, Jeannie Buss and these other people, not very good. Scap, I'll give you the final say on this, and I want to flip over to Josh Allen.
Yeah, I guess I misspoke, Jason. I said there were no heroes or heroines, but there are sympathetic figures in the story, and I think the 2 youngest Buss siblings do meet those parameters. And I'll go even so far as this, just to, I would say, generalize, kind of in general, I would say that younger half siblings are usually looked down upon amongst by the older, like, full siblings. So, and specifically in these entitled family dynamics. So it sounds like, just from what I read in that Baxter Holmes article, that was exactly what was happening within the dynamic of the Buss family. And therefore that does put a chip on your shoulder if you're these younger Buss boys. And then it does make them maybe want to work harder and prove that they're different and that they can do something great. So maybe you're right. Maybe all along the team should have been in their hands because they didn't fall under the parameters of these entitled bum kids that drove this franchise into the ground and ultimately cashed out for $10 billion. But look, they knew the deal though, Jason, when they brought LeBron in. They saw there was enough, like you said in your opening monologue, that we had it. There was enough kind of hints being thrown into the ether out there that we've seen throughout LeBron's tenure for his first 18, 16 years or whatever before he went there, to know that the back half wasn't going to go well. Jeannie signed a contract. Now she's got to pay the fee.
Steve, I want to move to you, or back to you, back to the football half of this, Josh Allen and Bobby Burack's article that kind of debunks this whole deal that the media is caping up for Josh Allen out of some kind of white racial bias. And to me, I actually think the black media is actually going after Josh Allen as some sort of revenge. Well, this is what used to happen to black athletes in the 1960s and 70s and 80s before we got here. So now let's let's exert some revenge on Josh Allen and Caitlin Clark and Fernando Mendoza and whoever we can. Is the media coverage of Josh Allen fair?
I think for the most part it has been, and I believe most non-biased observers did not overtly praise Allen. I thought he was very skittish and erratic, and especially that decision to fumble, not the decision, but that sloppy ball handling. I thought he missed a lot of layups. For a premier quarterback to leave that many throws on the field is egregious. That was not a great performance, but what does Confucius always say? The standards you set for somebody is what you really think. So those guys who are now on the target of Bobby Burack, I think there's a reality that they don't even recognize. They hold Josh Allen to the highest standards because that's what they really think of him.
Along those same lines, I want to play you this clip. Do we have the Bomani Jones, Matt Stafford clip? It's like, holy cow. Matt Stafford's won a Super Bowl, but somehow Bomani Jones has figured out a way to put Matt Stafford in the crosshairs. Let's play the clip.
I'm going to just say this right now. The Rams don't win the Super Bowl. Shut this Hall of Fame thing up. He the new Josh Allen. Josh Allen had to, right? He was dealing with that. Now it's the least scrutinized number one overall pick in the history of number one overall pick quarterbacks. You have the best two receivers, 1-2 in the league, where one guy led the league in catches and yards, and the other one led the league in touchdowns.
Wait a minute.
How can he do this to Matt Stafford?
Is he insinuating that right now, if Matt Stafford just retired, he would not be in the Hall of Fame? He's probably actually a first ballot at this point. And the argument, I think, is judging by what may happen in this playoffs, if he adds another Super Bowl, we're talking about, is he actually a top 10? If you talk to people that really know quarterback play, they'll tell you he does things that very few people ever have with that football inside the pocket. My question would be to Mr. Jones, if you're talking about a guy that's won a Super Bowl, actually took Detroit to a playoff or two. People forget about that. And that was a bad organization. Okay, if that is the standard, where do you hold Warren Moon? And I get it. He was not a number one pick, but you want to know what the least scrutinized number one pick? I completely disagree with that because he's actually lived up to the billing. But again, I'll ask another question. Will you hold Lamar Jackson to that same standard?
Look, I think Dan Fouts never won a Super Bowl.
Dan Marino.
Dan Marino. Yeah, and that's where we kind of moved this conversation. I'm telling you, I got to spend my whole life enjoying Dan Marino and rooting for him to win a Super Bowl without thinking like, oh, if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, he's greatly diminished and he's some sort of failure, and I get to mock the guy. But I'm not sure, and I would have to go listen to the entire deal, but was Bomani at the time is he like aware that this guy has won a Super Bowl and that if somehow he gets a second Super Bowl, it's now we're talking about, is Matt Stafford on the same level or better than Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
How is this guy? Scap, your thoughts here.
Jason, how can I not be spicy and hot today when I'm surrounded and inundated by these horrendous takes by these scrubs like Bomani Jones? Are you kidding me? Did someone find out? Was that from like 5 years ago, that recording? Look, Matt Stafford is going to finish top 6 or 7 all-time in yards and total touchdowns. He's trying to get a second Super Bowl. He's first-team All-Pro this year, which means more than likely he's going to win the league MVP this season. This guy is a first-ballot Hall of Famer. If he finishes this run off, he is probably a top 10 all-time quarterback. And by the way, he's playing the number 1 defense in points against, the number 3 defense in yards allowed in their building this weekend. So it's not like it's some gimme. It's not like he's, Drake May playing Jared Stidham in the conference championship game this weekend. So I just don't understand those comments. But I do, Jason, want to go back to the Josh Allen narrative or commentary because it has been eating away at me for a couple of days now. And I myself have been under fire for defending Josh Allen on my own platform because I have been an outspoken critic of Lamar Jackson for several years. So now I have all of these people coming in and attacking me about not keeping the same energy for Josh Allen. So let me keep the same energy because I'm trying to just provide the context to it and explain it. And every time I try to explain it, I just get fools calling me racist. So let me try it one more time, and I'll try to slow it down and talk slower so everybody can understand. Josh Allen has played in 15 playoff games. He has 38 total touchdowns and 10 total turnovers. He had a lousy game against the Broncos, and he made inexcusable plays. Still, though, in the 14 games that preceded that game, he had 6 total turnovers. Okay, so now even in 15 games, 38 touchdowns, 10 turnovers. Lamar Jackson has 13 total touchdowns and 11 turnovers in his playoff career in 8 games played. These two guys came in the same draft class. They both started as rookies. They've been playing their whole careers. Lamar Jackson has 5 fewer playoff wins than Josh Allen does right now, with, you can say until recently, better supporting casts and a better coach. So lose me with the keep the same energy. Okay, next time I see Josh Allen be single-handedly the reason they lose, as lousy as he played in that game, he still made a ton of great plays and kept them in it. Lamar Jackson got blown to pieces at home in a playoff game as a 9.5-point favorite to the Titans as a league MVP and the favorite to win the Super Bowl. 9.5-point favorite coming off of a bye at home as the league MVP and the Super Bowl favorite got blown to pieces. It was 28-6 in the fourth quarter of that game where he was abysmal. Lose me with the comps between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. It's not the same stratosphere.
Scap, that was wonderful and and accurate. See, I think there has. I think, and I know I'm speculating here, but like there has to be some sort of collusion or conversation going on amongst all these, just keeping it real, black talking heads. Because they all keep coming back to the same themes, the same points. Maybe it's just they see each other.
What I think
tweets.
it is?
Yeah.
Jason, you've talked about the influence of social media. I believe that there is a pressure, whether it is in the back of their minds or the front of their minds, if they do not push back or go out there and endorse their guy. They don't want their Twitter followers to say exactly what Cap said. You're not keeping the same energy. You're selling out. You're being a mouthpiece. So I think there is a level of pandering that is understood that they have to do to stay within the good graces with the masses.
Let me just say one more thing, guys, because after I took it on the mouth for 24 hours about my tepid defense of Josh Allen, CJ Stroud came out and played one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life, and I buried him. And then it really started, and oh my goodness, Scap, you got to stop this. You got to stop with the racism here. Not only did you not destroy Josh Allen like you have Lamar Jackson, now you're going in on CJ Stroud too? Well, they both had 4 turnovers. Do you have a pair of eyes? Is your IQ over 75? Did you watch both games? In that case, you simply, again, cannot put CJ Stroud's performance in the same stratosphere as Josh Allen's. It's just insane, the levels that we've reached today. It's crazy.
It is social media, and I think that some people know so little or they're so lazy that they just take their talking points from social media. And so they'll see something get tweeted out. Oh, that's interesting. And the next thing you know, if that gets a bunch of likes and whatever, then they just repeat it. But again, if you put any objective thought into any of this, I just don't understand how you make the argument that Bomani makes and the arguments that we keep seeing get made over and over and over again. And I almost feel sorry that they don't get to enjoy Josh Allen. Because I get to enjoy Lamar Jackson, and I do enjoy Lamar Jackson. I get to enjoy Josh Allen. I get to enjoy Caitlin Clark, and there's virtually no one else in women's basketball worthy of enjoying, but I get to enjoy her. It's like they can't because of these racial implications, and it's like I don't understand why they're even watching sports. And as you know, not to defend Scap, but it's like white guys are kind of free to enjoy whomever they want, and so if Scap wants to spend his life defending Kobe Bryant, who's arguably one of the top 30 NBA players of all time. If Scap wants to elevate him from 25th to in his time, he gets to do that. He doesn't have to worry about, Kobe's not the same color as me, so I get to pretend like he's one of the 20 best players of all time. Scap is free, whereas a lot of these, I'm free, but a lot of these guys, they're not free. They don't get to enjoy certain things. They have to pretend like Josh Allen isn't amazing.
Hold on. First of all, I saw you try to do the Scap there, a little gaslighting. But anyway, what Scap went through with that whole C.J. Stroud, Josh Allen thing is another version of what about Favre? And there's also another thing. They do this to try to pressure white guys into pandering. They do, and I think a lot of white guys actually fall into it. They start saying things that they don't mean, they over-exaggerate certain things, or they underplay certain things because they want to stay in the good graces. And so there's like this taciturn pressure to say certain things you do not mean. But I have a question for those. Do you really believe that C.J. Stroud and Josh Allen played the same caliber of game? Maybe if you read the box score, they did. The turnovers are what they are. But I guarantee you this, if you ask 32 general managers, who would you rather take for the next 5 years, C.J. Stroud or Josh Allen, it'd be unanimous. Also, if you asked them which quarterback would you take to win one game if your life depended on it, I also believe the answer would be the same and it would still be unanimous.
Steve,
I'll go a step further.
Go ahead.
I'll go a step further with that. If you just replaced the two players this year on these teams, I think the Buffalo Bills don't even make the playoffs, whereas I think the Houston Texans win the Super Bowl.
Woo! I don't disagree.
Good point. Steve, I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball, but it's not much of one. It's an easy one. It's a fastball straight. You were just at the national championship game. Your Miami Hurricanes lost. Fernando Mendoza has an incredible fourth quarter ending to the game. And there's a lot of conversation about Fernando Mendoza. He's Cuban, but he's white adjacent. He speaks good English. He has a proper haircut, no tattoos. So he's white adjacent. But it's like I see people not wanting to give Fernando Mendoza his full credit. And it's not that, for 3 quarters, he was along for the ride in that national championship game. But in the fourth quarter, he did some really special things to help them win that game. I know you went to the national championship game. I know your Hurricanes lost, but I would like your take on just Fernando Mendoza and just like I don't like him at the very top of the NFL draft, but I really like Fernando Mendoza, and I think he's a great college player that just had an incredible ending to his historic college career.
Here's my view on him. Is he worth the number 1 pick if you're the Raiders? I don't think so. I've been on record as saying if I'm Las Vegas, I put that number 1 pick up for auction, and I try to get as many draft choices and maybe a starter or two. And I also put Max Crosby on the trading block and just blow that whole thing up. Because Mendoza gives you a lot of leadership, maturity, stability, a lot of the intangibles. But if you look at that game, Jason, a lot of those throws were back shoulders and out towards the sideline. I didn't see a lot of intermediate throws where he's throwing on time. That's going to be an issue, and a lot of the RPO stuff that may not be available at the next level. But is he worthy of a first-round draft choice? Yes. But when I think of a bona fide number 1 franchise quarterback, I do think of guys with the caliber of arm talent and skill like Matt Stafford. Andrew Luck was a much more highly acclaimed draft prospect, and Joe Burrow. Those guys, and Troy Aikman was like the prototype, and he's still the prototype to this day, and John Elway certainly. So there's a lot to like about Mendoza, but I'm kind of with you, Jason. I don't know if I'm the Raiders if he's my surefire pick at the top.
Strap, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Mendoza and the entire Indiana story this year is arguably one of the best stories in all of sports history. It's just an incredible story, and really from Signetti all the way down to Mendoza, you really can't even make this stuff up. I love his intangibles, his leadership, but the arm talent certainly doesn't pop off the screen to me when I watch him. I worry about the pressures and the stress that's going to be placed upon him then being the number 1 overall pick. I think the expectations might be a bit lofty, and in a poorly run organization to this point, he could crumble under them. So I certainly hope I'm wrong on that. His ascent from 2-star recruit though out of high school to a Heisman Trophy winning number 1 overall pick certainly is an extraordinary story, capping it off with a 16-0 run this year. And I do love the intangibles. And guys, one thing that maybe you haven't thought about is his idol is Tom Brady, who is like the king of intangibles. The king of didn't pop off the screen, was looked over by everybody, and he went on to become the greatest quarterback of all time. Now, Tom Brady, if they do take Mendoza number 1 overall, will be instrumental in kind of bringing Mendoza along now in the first couple years of his career. So potentially that influence will be able to kind of hopefully help him overcome the lack of tangible arm talent.
I went long on these other topics, and so last one here, and Scap, I'll let you fire first here. Let's play the clip of Jay Glazer saying that Mike Tomlin will never coach again. And does this surprise you? Let's hear from Glazer.
Sean McVay, Kyle Shannon? Absolutely not. No, it's not.
Okay.
No, it doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know people also said, well, now, could Mike Tomlin come out? No, that's not happening. Mike T's done.
Okay.
He's done. He's been done.
Wow.
Mike Tomlin done. You believe that? You buying that?
I mean, Glazer's certainly more dialed in with Tomlin than I am. So if he says it, there we have to lend some credibility to that, obviously. However, I would be shocked if a guy with this ego isn't going to come out and try to prove all of the people in Pittsburgh wrong. Because look, while Mike T still has the backing of the national pundits primarily, the consensus within the Steel City is that he should have been gone long ago. I'm saying we because I am born and raised in Pittsburgh, even though I don't live there right now. We have been over Mike Tomlin for several years. We think he was overrated throughout the majority of his tenure and largely undeserving of that job in the first place. So, and honestly, if you listen to Mike Tomlin and the reports behind the scenes, the Pittsburgh fan influence played a major role in moving Mike Tomlin off of the sideline. I would think that guy wants to come out and show what an excellent, great coach he is and prove all of the doubters wrong. But personally, I don't think he's a great coach. So this is a cagey move. Guys, ultimately, to thine own self be true. And maybe Mike T himself knows that it's not going to get better anywhere else. He's likely going to snap that all-important, never under 500 streak that he loves so much on his resume bullet point. So maybe this is just a shrewd, cagey move by Tomlin, identifying that the best is honestly behind him, and he's just going to live out the rest of his life and just coast right into the Hall of Fame, which I don't think he deserves to be in, by the way.
Scap has to lace all of his commentary with that negativity. I don't understand it. Why has it got to be an ego thing? Maybe he's done coaching. He's 53, I believe. Wants to spend time with his wife, kids, family. If you buy the rumors, maybe he's got a cleanup on aisle 2 he needs to do and needs to prioritize that. He has expressed himself as a man of faith. I think there's a chance that, Glazer has talked to him and Mike is sincere and maybe could do more. Not that he needs to shore up his Hall of Fame candidacy because he's going to make the Hall of Fame. He's a black coach that won a Super Bowl. But he could elevate his reputation in the broadcast booth. There are no wins and losses in the broadcast booth. Steve, how do you see it?
Well, this is interesting because if you look at the history of the Steelers, they've had 3 coaches in about, 50 some odd years. Chuck Noll, who was older, never coached again. Bill Cowher never coached again. So there is a precedent here, right? I saw a recent tweet where Tomlin was at his daughter's gymnastic meet at the University of Georgia. Maybe he likes seeing his kids kind of grow up, right? And maybe he enjoys it, but we're really early into this process. But Jason, we had a conversation about 4 or 5 months ago about how Russell Wilson retired right after Seattle. Just decided I had enough football. Everyone says Russell Wilson, future Hall of Famer. But to Scap's point, if it keeps going, maybe that whole thing about him being a surefire Hall of Famer goes by the wayside. And speaking of which, I'm just going to bring something up. Jason, if you're saying that Mike Tomlin, as a minority coach with 1 Super Bowl, is bound for Canton with the bust, right? Okay, I'm not going to argue that. What about Tom Flores? He's a minority with 2 Super Bowls. I'll just say that. Orale.
He's the wrong kind of minority. He doesn't have a Ryan Clark-like figure on TV, you know, and Stephen A. Smith or anybody screaming racism. You know, but yeah, does Tom Flores belong in the Hall of Fame based on the standards we've now set? And again, look, Bill Cowher's in the Hall of Fame, and I wasn't a fan of that, and I like Bill Cowher, but this 1 Super Bowl deal gets you into the Hall of Fame. It's like there was a discussion about Warren Moon getting in the Hall of Fame. And I was like, well, hold on. If Dan Fouts is in the Hall of Fame, they've opened the door. You don't have to have Super Bowls. You need stats and numbers. Warren's got them. And once they went there, and trust me, I think Tony Dungy belongs in the Hall of Fame, but I don't know if he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. But once we went down that route of, hey, Tony Dungy, 1 Super Bowl, Hall of Fame. Now, everybody with 1 Super Bowl has a claim to be in the Hall of Fame, and so here we are. It is what it is. I want one last thing. I think it was Adam Thielen talking about what Tomlin told the team, his final thoughts to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's play that clip.
Was it shocking when Mike Tomlin walked into that meeting and was like, "Hey, I'm done, guys"?
It was because he didn't start with that. Like he didn't preface it in any way. Like it was just like a normal like Mike T meeting. Like, hey, like it wasn't good enough. You know, like I appreciate your effort. Like all these things. I don't know exactly what he said, but it was kind of like his normal like after game meeting, whether you win or lose. Like just talking about his appreciation for the effort and things like that. And then it was kind of the last thing. It was like, and by the way, like. I'm going to step down, and it was, I think it was most emotional because the way he said it was like he wasn't good enough, like he didn't do a good enough job and he felt like he's letting guys down. And that's when it gets emotional because you're like, no, I didn't do enough. Like you did your job. I need to do my job better. And I think that's where it got emotional. Whether you were a coach or a player, you kind of like, man, like if I would have done a better job, like this probably wouldn't be happening. So, tough to see a guy like that again, a legend, the way he carries himself, the way he leads. I think coaches and players all just had so much respect for him to the very last day. It's not like he just like cashed it in the last few weeks or cashed it in good knowing that he was maybe going to step down or take a year off. He was all in. And you felt that every day that, you had a team meeting every day and you felt.
Scap, I'm going to give you a chance to exhibit the same kind of class Mike Tomlin showed his team there, where he took the blame and said he wasn't good enough. Scap, let's see if you can meet the moment and show some respect here for Mike T. You like this final statement to his team?
I love it, actually, because it was his fault, Jason. It has been his fault pretty much all along. And let me just say this, guys, about these comments. I have heard or seen reports about the players, this last meeting where Tomlin announced, where allegedly players were bawling their eyes out. There was reports that some players were hyperventilating in the locker room because they were so sad and beside themselves by this. Get out of here. This is why they haven't won a playoff game in a decade, okay? Because these soft, pampered players are crying over him leaving. Try channeling that energy into winning one playoff game in a decade, and maybe he wouldn't have had to leave.
Steve.
Yeah, well, I
this
think
thing
they
up.
called it in our business when we were writers, Jason, burying the lead. And could you imagine just going through the season and the game? Well, by the way, guys, I'm retiring. That's kind of odd. But yeah, I'm with Scap. The way it ended up, because I'm sure that the players had to hear the chatter about Mike Tomlin's job status, right? And there had to be a belief, the way they lost to the Texans, that he was not on firm footing and that the public, at least in Pittsburgh, they were out. I believe the majority at that point were appreciative of Tomlin, outside of Scap, but at the same time wanted to move on. So I don't know. It's not like this is Chuck Noll suddenly retiring after they beat the Rams, and I think in Super Bowl 13. I find that to be hard to believe, like Scap.
Gentlemen, I'm going to let you go. Steve, you let Scap drag you right into the gutter with him. Tomlin says classy exit, and neither one of you guys can give the guy credit for a classy exit and sharing that moment with the team. Everybody's bursting up in tears because of the connection with Mike Tomlin. You two should be ashamed of yourself. You're both racist. That's the problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
But anyway, we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much. I'll be on the Harmony channel in, let's say, 7 minutes, 11:35 Central Time, with Shamika Michelle and Dre Baldwin. We'll be talking. Did you guys see Pam Grier? You know what? We're going to play the Pam Grier just to warm you up. Did you guys see Pam Grier claiming, that she grew up in the 50s and 60s and walked down the street and just saw lynched black bodies everywhere in Ohio? Anyway, we'll discuss that. Jasmine Crockett talking about that there's still lynchings going on today. Coco Gauff, the tennis player, talking about how hard it is to be a black woman. We'll talk about that on the Harmony channel at 11:35. But just to warm you up, I want to play SOT 7, Pam Grier here. We'll be talking about this here in a few minutes.
You faced a lot of racism growing up in Columbus, Ohio. How did that shape you?
Whew. Well, the military wouldn't allow black families to live on the base, so you had to live in an apartment, and you couldn't take a bus. You couldn't afford a car. You walked. Your dads walked to the base, and sometimes we would go from tree shade to get back to the apartment. My brother and I, my mom, with bags, and my mom would go, "Don't look, don't look, don't look," and she'd pull us away. Wow. Because there was someone hanging from a tree. And they have a memorial for it now where you can see where people were and left. And it triggers me today to see that a voice can be silenced. And if a white family supported a black, they're going to get burned down or killed or lynched as well.
Yeah.
Pam, you've done too many extraordinary things to highlight, but I do want to mention one.